I keep making videos telling over 100 different people what some fictional anime character named James Grider thinks. This is another video about what this fictional anime character thinks. Now, why would a guy make up stories about what some fictional character thinks? His conversations with his sister. Why would a guy write about a character depicted thinking very specific things? Why bother making videos like that? To a lot of people, James Grider may appear evil, and his sister Carmela may seem good. But in truth, as it will become evident in the story I'm writing, Carmela is actually a weak individual who allows James Grider to lead her along. She's not argumentative, she's passive. She will remind James why society would disagree with him, but she would never fight James aggressively to defend her opposing views. It's like she really holds no pride in what she thinks. If she was aggressive in defending her views, James might have killed her in rage already. So why hasn't he? Carmela doesn't like confrontation. She does as society expects her to do. But if her brother leans on her to do something his way, though reluctantly, she will very likely go along with him. Carmela's character is someone feminists would hate, because as they read the story, they would wonder, why doesn't she just kill her asshole brother already? How is she allowing him to lead her by the nose like that? How does she continue being party to all these stupid decisions and horrible things he does? When will she turn into a strong female lead who does the right thing? Of course, that's because James Grider will be seen as an antagonist, even though the story will explain why he did all the bad things he did and justify all of it. People won't care. James will still be looked upon as a despicable being who they will hope dies at the story's end. And they'll be saying, Carmela, what are you doing? How are you so fucking stupid and weak? You're just as bad as James. How can you stick by him and turn a blind eye to what he's doing? It's like Carmela has no guts. She's one of those females who would get a bad boyfriend who robs banks and kills people, and while she might not participate in his crime spree directly because of a certain level of conscience, she would tolerate it because she loves him. But this is what Carmela was all along. Does it surprise you? Otherwise, why would James ever talk about any of his ideas with her again and again and again if in some strange way she wasn't actually on his side, even though it seems like she's not on his side? So here is a conversation between James Grider and Carmela about the Real ID Act and all of that.
I'm so fucking sick and tired of how the government traps you so you have no fucking ability to reinvent yourself and start your life over, James said.
How so? Carmela asked.
By making it impossible to make a fake ID that will pass muster with the police, James answered. In the 1950s, it was so easy. If a cop pulls you over, you show your driver's license, and the 1950s cop simply had to believe that you are what the little paper card says you are. He had no way of checking it against anything. A cop is on the road. He's driving. How is he going to peek into any archives? That's what made life great. You could go to a criminal who makes fake IDs, have him print one up for you, and the dumb pig who pulls you over will have to believe it. What other choice does he have? Well, I guess if he has a radio reception wherever he pulled you over, he could radio dispatch with your license info. The dispatch would have to get someone to phone the DMV office in the city within the state where the license was issued. Someone at the DMV office would have to go to the archives stuffed in a dusty shelf or a drawer somewhere, look for your name, do a check, then phone the police station back and have the dispatch then radio back the patrol car with whether the license checks out or not. It could take over an hour to do probably. What cop would even bother? They wouldn't. It was easier to just believe the ID you're carrying is real.
In the 1950s, the term terrorist didn't exist either, Carmela reminded her brother. So national security wasn't such a big deal.
With all the steps the government is taking in the cause of fighting terrorism is going to turn me into a terrorist, James fired back. Because I'm pissed. I can't easily acquire a fake ID to reinvent my life and start over. I might begin wanting to punish the people who stand in my way, to blow up the offices of Homeland Security because of their stupid Real ID Act. I don't want to be locked into my identity for the rest of my life. If I want a new birth date, if someone wants a clean criminal record so they can get a job, if people want to start life over, then they should be able to do that.
I don't know, Carmela said. It seems scary that you might associate with a criminal and not know they are a criminal because their background and identity are false.
Well, fuck you, James said. I will have to commit actions that will be defined as crimes by law, but will actually help society. Why should I be punished for that? For trying to do the moral good? There are many other reasons why people might want to change their identities that may not necessarily mean they're criminals or terrorists. Book characters like Repairman Jack need to be able to do that.
Well, I guess you can't run away from your past anymore, like you could in the 1950s, Carmela said. Everyone has to take responsibility for their mistakes now.
Homeland Security needs to have a bomb truck shoved down their building's lobby, James said. How could they force the Real ID Act on me? It means I couldn't apply for a driver's license that says James Grider and a second driver's license that says Jim Grider, or James Grider, where Grider is spelled with a Y instead of an I. People will do stuff like that so they appear to be a different person, so that it's harder for private entities to track their history in case they have a checkered past they want to remain obscured. Now the name has to match what's on your birth certificate, according to the Real ID Act. No more aliases or alternate spellings of your name.
I heard you won't be able to board an airplane soon, unless you have one of those Real IDs, Carmela said.
Well, fuck airplanes, James said. Why can't we take ocean liners anymore, like in the 1920s? It was fun to travel in the past. You get on a train to take you to a coastal city. If you live in a landlocked place, then you get on an ocean liner there. Then you go to the other continent, and then you take the train again to go inland.
Not a very efficient way to travel, Carmela remarked. Sounds like it would take forever to get to a country on another continent.
How is it the government fucks things up so much? It makes people hate modern technology, James marveled. Think about it. Airplanes. People should love airplanes. The government gets involved in airlines with their oppressive shit. You start hating that airplanes were invented. Cameras are a great thing, except because the police are still allowed to use footage recorded on cameras against you in a court of law, you start hating cameras. Computers are a great thing, except because computers now make it so easy to cross-reference data and keep track of a person's background that you can't change your fucking identity anymore. Before computers, that was so easy to do. You go into the library and you find death certificates of babies that were born around the same year as you. Then you take the name of that infant and make a fake passport and a fake driver's license for that identity under the birth certificate. Without computerized databases, it was impossible for the cops to learn that you're walking around with the name of a stillborn infant from 30 years ago. The government just fucking poisons everything. Every time new technology is invented, they pounce on it to employ it as a tool of oppression. Take computers away from the government. Computers should only be for people to play games and surf the internet. Let the fucking pigs run their police departments like it's 1950. DNA testing, all sorts of things. They use every scientific progress as a method or a tool to tighten control on the public, which should all be taken away from them.
Carmela was laughing at James. I don't think there's any other person in this world who would have come close to saying or thinking what you just said, she said.
James's rage exploded. Blow up! Blow up fucking federal buildings! Blow up!
No. Carmela leapt at James to make him stop yelling. The neighbors might hear you. The neighbors will hear you shout that and call the FBI because they will think you're a terrorist. You can't yell that stuff in this day and age. Nobody will think it's a joke. It's like in the Soviet Union, if you started yelling that you're going to blow up Kremlin or shoot Joseph Stalin, what do you think would happen?
James Grider is right. It would be so nice for me if I could steal the identity of a stillborn child from the year 1998. Let's say I have a birth certificate forged under that child's name. The government doesn't have any computers or databases to check that this stillborn baby is deceased. How will they know? The only way they can know is to go into the paper archives in the library of some backwater town from where I pilfered that stillborn child's name. And no one was going to bother with that. Because the child never lived, I won't be infringing on the identity of any individual, so it won't bother that person. So next I go to the DMV and have a license issued under that birth certificate. I take the driving test again. I acquire other documents with that license. Now, because I can pass for a 17-year-old at 28, I can move into a different town and enroll myself in a high school there under a false identity. I'll enroll myself in 12th grade as a senior. The school will want records from the prior schools that I attended, but I'm sure I could falsify something, like maybe I was homeschooled up until this point, or just falsify records from another school in a different state. Who is going to check that shit anyway? So now I'm back in high school, pretending to be 17 at 28. Instead of being a loser with no friends, like I was originally when I went to high school, I can repeat 12th grade and do it right this time. Because I have learned so much about proper social interaction, I will no longer alienate myself. I will make lots of friends and have fun. I will wear good clothes to school and become popular. I will join some athletic club because kids in athletic programs are very popular. I couldn't do football, that's too rough, but maybe baseball or tennis. I would obtain a hot 16 or 17-year-old girlfriend, and we might attend prom together, and we would drive to a beautiful panorama point in the mountains and have sex in the back seat of my automobile, like all the normal kids did in the 1980s. I would get to start life over and use what I learned from my first experience at high school not to be a loser like when I went to high school the first time. And far as schoolwork goes, I would just cheat on everything and use the internet to find all the answers. Because that's not what I would be going back to high school for. But instead, because it's become impossible to obtain a new identity fraudulently, how will I enroll myself in high school again? So I'm just a lonely loser now wasting life. See, not everything is about terrorism and killing the infidels in the name of Allah, like the fucking government wants you to think. Sometimes people just need to commit a small crime to put their lives back on track.